Hi, I'm Michael Coleman with the SoundWorks Collection, and today we are talking about Come See Me in the Good Light, a new Apple TV documentary directed by Ryan White, following poet, activist Andrea Gibson and Megan Fowley as they navigate an examination of love and mortality after Gibson is diagnosed with terminal ovarian cancer. The film is a meditation on love, loss, and the courageous act of showing up fully in the moments that matter most. At the heart of the film is Sara Bareilles and Brandi Carlile's luminous new song, Salt Then Sour Then Sweet, a song that holds grief and grace in the same breath, written as both a love letter and a reckoning. The song captures Bareilles' gift for transforming intimate, tender truths into something universally felt. Welcome, Sara Bareilles.
Oh, that was the nicest introduction. I loved what you said about the film.
I will say I've known about Andrea's work, but I went into this really not knowing anything about what the film was about, and I was just torn apart in the greatest of ways.
Yeah.
I'd love to, now that we're on this side of releasing the film and your song to the world, what's your experience been like now sharing it with audiences? What has that been like for you?
Oh my gosh, it's been just like transcendent. I think it is impossible to deny the palpable resonance of this film, especially when you get an opportunity to see it in community. Like, I've been lucky to see it in a few different movie theaters over the course of its release and, at certain festivals. And watching this film alone is an incredible experience, but also watching it in a group is really, really healing and cathartic. And I think people, what they don't know is that the film is so funny and it's so joyful. And Ryan White, the director, often says this in his talkbacks, is like, you hear it's a film about a poet with cancer, and you're like, I'm going to put that on the must-miss list. But it is the most life-affirming, joyful, intimate portrait of two of the most incredible people and their community that you will ever see. It is so special.
At first, I thought it was a stomach bug. But when it started feeling like a stomach anaconda, my doctor convinced me to get a CAT scan. I'd been a lifelong hypochondriac with debilitating panic attacks and a chronic fear of death, so was already trembling when the scan technician asked me to shift positions to get a view of my pelvis. There was so much sweat on my palms I could feel my lifelines drowning. The technician broke protocol and walked me out to my car. We stopped twice on the way so I could hyperventilate in his arms. The next morning, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Several large masses on ovaries, malignancy suspected. I couldn't feel my hands. They'd gone numb from trying to hold on to everyone I had ever loved. This is the beginning of a nightmare, I thought. A diagnosis that my doctors would later declare incurable. My worst fear come true. But stay with me, y'all, because my story is one about happiness, being easier to find. Once we realize we do not have forever to find it.
What was it about this project of saying yes? Because I feel like for someone like you, I'm sure you're being, asked to collaborate or take on so many projects outside of things that you're just trying to do, like your own music. What was different about this project? What spoke to you? Because I understood the story of when Andrea had come into your life, through social media, and then having a chance for that Colorado show. But what was it? What was the tipping point for you that it was just a definite for you?
I went to that show in Colorado very much on a whim. This show that gets featured in the film, and I was there just as a fan. And I couldn't believe I'd never been to a spoken word show period, full stop. But I couldn't believe it felt like a rock concert. It felt like people were saying lines of poetry back to Andrea as if it was, their favorite song. And it was just it felt like being in a spiritual, sacred exchange. And I was really moved by that experience. And so I had run into Glennon and Abby, who are also executive producers, and they invited me to join the executive producing team. And it just felt like, this is something that I've been doing a little bit more of in different mediums. I look at this kind of work as paying it forward. I've been really lucky to have a lot of support in my career. I've done a lot of different things, and I'm really privileged to have resources and a platform. So when I find something I love, regardless of outcome, I like to help art get made that I believe in. So I've invested in theater projects and artists I love, and all kinds of things, because I just think making art is good for the world, whether I'm like the delivery system or not. I just think art getting made is important. So Andrea's work very quickly meant a lot to me, and then especially seeing the resonance of their work in a bigger community, I just was like, what can I do to help? I just think it's really important.
Yeah. Do you remember when poetry first entered your life, even at a younger age? I mean, things that maybe seep their way into your lyrical style, or how did poetry show up early in your life?
Well, I definitely remember in English classes in elementary school having to, learn like a Robert Frost poem or something like that. And I always thought I didn't like poetry very much. I think I always thought I didn't like poetry, but I was always drawn to writers, certain lyricists. Certainly I'm thinking of like the Indigo Girls and Fiona Apple, and people who write with, a lot of poetic stylings. And, so Mary Oliver was probably the first poet that I really started to metabolize and loved their work so much. And then, poets like Rumi and then Andrea's work feels so contemporary, but it does what I think poetry does so well, which is sort of straddles this space between earth and somewhere else. It's just, there's something about the economy of it. I think it leaves so much space. And it's just it's something I do often now, sit and read poetry.
Yeah. Something that you mentioned in the past that really stuck with me is this comment about grief is a shortcut to the truth. What was different about experiencing Andrea's own journey and the grief? How is it different being a third party to it as an observer? How did that play differently for you?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is that having gone through my own grieving process I lost one of my best friends in 2020, and I lost another best friend last year, at the end of last year. And it's a tremendous honor to be invited into any part of the intimacy that is what transpires at the end of someone's life. I mean, the dying process, especially if you're someone who's dealing with a terminal diagnosis and you sort of are watching your mortality approach. It's a tremendous honor. So I hold that position with like a deep and a deep reverence. So I felt like when my friend passed in 2020, it was the first time I had lost someone who was a peer, who, I had lost my grandparents, but that's sort of like, we all have this relationship to grief and loss and losing people we love. But there's a kind of, an inevitability that we make assumptions about, well, we're supposed to outlive our grandparents, if things go as they quote unquote should. But to lose a friend or to lose someone who's seemingly sort of at the prime of their life, is a very disorienting experience. And I felt that with my friend Chad, who passed in 2020, I was very much in the overwhelm of the disorientation. So I think in losing my friend Gavin last year and then Andrea this year, I think I have a greater capacity to sort of show up wholeheartedly to what feels so uncomfortable about death. Not that I want to get cozy with death, but I do think it is it's kind of like that's the name of the game, is that I think so much of what causes us pain in our life is that we're living in this extraordinary denial of the idea that we're all heading that way at some point anyway. So, it sounds morbid, I guess, to talk about, but it's also so beautiful. It's so universal. It's so connective. It's like, it's really a tremendous gift if we can allow it to be. There's a lot of wisdom in getting close to our own mortality. And so an opportunity like this to work with Andrea and to get close to Meg and this whole team that's telling this story has just felt really cathartic.
The thing that I wasn't expecting from this documentary, and I think it speaks so greatly to Andrea's strength, is how she can be both vulnerable and strong at the same time and hold the space. With the film premiering at Sundance and you premiering your song there, and what was that experience like to also perform it live?
That weekend at Sundance, I don't even quite know how to put into words how lucky I felt to be there. It was such a pinch me moment of like, I don't know how I ended up here. I don't know how I got given this extraordinary gift of, staying for a weekend in this house in Park City with Tig and her wife, Stephanie, and Steph Willen, who's one of the original ideas and, the idea maker and producer on the film, and Andrea and Meg and Abby and Glennon. And I couldn't believe my great fortune. I just felt so humbled, because it was like getting invited to like a sleepover of all these people that I admire so much. And then I got to like put on my pajamas too and sit by the fire and share stories and cry and actually have a very humane exchange. And it was such a testament to like the way this whole film has been conceived and made and now produced and distributed, is that everything has had to kind of pass the litmus test of like, is it or is it not in alignment with, like, do you love this film? Because if you don't, and do you love these people? Because if you don't, then let's make room for someone who does. It's this film is so much about love. And that experience of being at Sundance was really transformative.
You write a song and you share it with the world, and the audience is going to interpret it however they want. But I feel like this one was different because it was coming from Andrea's work, and because the poetry has a lyrical sense to it, and you're thinking about a song.
Come to the porch, love. Look up at the perfect sky, holding the sun and the moon and the thunder in June, while it teaches the birds and the rain how to fly. I don't need perfect, no, I just want to touch the truth. I want to cherish the trying and the living and the dying, and make big mistakes the way kind people do.
So when you're structuring the lyrics, what was the delicate balance of trying to honor different types of themes to come across for the song?
I mean, we got given, Brandi, Carlile, and I got given this incredible gift of like pages of unfinished poetry. There were couplets and musings and like little ideas. And, as you know, Andrea and Ryan had been conceiving the idea of an original poem for the film. And then by the time I think the film was, close to the end of production, Andrea's health really just needed their full focus and their treatment. And then it became about getting the film out. So it was a perfect baton pass to be like, yes, I would be so excited to get the opportunity to kind of scour these beautiful like pieces of poetry and stitch together something that makes sense. And it was, a direct request from Andrea that they didn't want people leaving this film to feel brokenhearted. I think more just hopeful and in love, because I really think that's how Andrea felt about their life, was like sort of broken open and in love with life. with all of it, the terrible parts, the tragic parts, the painful parts, the beautiful parts. I mean, I think that's the great wisdom of them to me, is this like extraordinary prophet that is teaching us how to love this life in all of its shapes and forms. And so it was a pretty intuitive collaboration. I watched the film for the first time. It used to end on a scene that had a wind chime in a certain key. So I started writing the song in the certain key of the wind chime. That has since shifted, but it works great. And the music came out quickly. It was not difficult to sort of write this love song, especially after seeing the film, because I mean, talk about falling in love with someone, not just Andrea, but also Meg, like this incredible love story that feels like is the driver of this whole piece. And so it became about using, a vast majority of Andrea's lyrics or Andrea's poetry as lyrics, and then did a little interstitial kind of weaving together and adding a few lyrics here and there to just make things make sense. But this was not a heavy lift at all. It was light and beautiful.
What was unexpected about this song? What did you not expect of what came out of it, whether it was lyrically or musically or just the overall final composition?
Oh man, I was not anticipating it to sort of flow as easily as it did. And we also had to work so quickly because we were trying to get into Sundance. So we were trying to have the song done and recorded and sent off so we could there was like a matter of days that we had.
Do you like that pressure?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right.
I mean, I guess there is a part of me that works better with a deadline. This was an uncomfortable deadline. Like I think it was a little too close for comfort, but ultimately we got it done, and it was, it's been a journey. It's been an amazing road of kind of crafting this, but it's been an interesting one because, we kind of scrabbled it together. That's not a word. Scrabbled it together.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like,
yes.
Scrapped it together to get into the Sundance deadline. And then now what is heard, we didn't have Brandi at that time on the song. So I just was in the studio and singing it all myself. So now I feel like we're getting closer to the sort of what we had imagined and aimed for when we were all writing the song.
Your sensibility of capturing emotion and having that transmitted through your music, I think, is what continues to just amaze me about all your songs. I think like when I was looking back at at Sundance when you did perform this and your other song from Waitress, I was thinking of that song. I was like, that it shares similar DNA, or it feels like it comes from a similar world.
And be scared of the life that's inside her, growing stronger each day till it finally reminds her to fight just a little, to bring back the fire in her eyes that's been gone but used to be mine.
What is about those two songs that are similar, or when you wrote that one and obviously this one, what was it about those two that kind of go together so well?
I'm trying to just tell the truth with music, with every artistic endeavor. I'm trying to just tell the truth. And I think, She Used to Be Mine from Waitress was a really serendipitous. I mean, I wonder actually, now that I think about it, I hadn't thought about this lens, but, these two projects sort of like came into my life very unexpectedly. Waitress did. I was not something I had been imagining doing. I had gone through a ton of upheaval in my life. I said yes to this project from a very naive place. And that was the first song I wrote for the show. And there was something kind of affirming and, encouraging about the writing of that song because I was really writing very autobiographically. I was finding a lot of parallels between my story and the lead character, Jenna. And I think, in not a dissimilar way, this project with Andrea and Meg and the Come See Me in the Good Light crew came into my life unexpectedly at a time where I really needed the medicine of this movie. And so this idea of finding a way to love life, even for being difficult, I think is a major lesson for me right now. And so I hadn't thought about the correlation, but thank you for that.
No worries. I really, it was only after when I was like, this seems like, yeah, she used to be mine to me. I was thinking of it, and then I went back and looked at the Sundance stuff, and you did perform it. I'm like, why or how did that show up? And it was just, it was fascinating. I mean, I was just interested to understand that.
It feels almost subconscious. I mean, now it is less subconscious, but I think there was a subconscious, weaving together of those same kind of themes.
Yeah. For you, obviously you're looking at releasing a new album that is, based in and around a lot of these themes of grief, which I loved your story about you saying how you pitching this to your record label of saying, this is what this is going to be about. And what do you guys think? And, when people are, they're always trying to spin it as there's a positive, there has to be a positive side to balance off the negative side. When you have been going through the process of writing your own material and also working on this song, what's been your greatest takeaway of sharing space with others and being able to write music that, reaches people in unexpected ways who are experiencing grief?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, which is the great lesson to me right now, as I'm talking about learning to love life. I think the magic, the special sauce for that is other people. I think we are really suffering from loneliness as a culture, and grief is not meant to be carried alone. And I don't think that there is there's just not a world where you get through it on your own. There just isn't. It will codify, and it will fester, and it will live in your body somewhere. And so the medicinal value of this film and this work and this song, I think, is about, sharing space. And this record that you're talking about, I made it with my friends, and I did it very differently than I've done it in the past. And it was very raw and just really, just very intimate, really intimate. And it was that was the only way to hold this stuff. It's too hard. It's too hard to try to buck up and figure out how to lose so much.
The unexpected journeys of life, I think, for you, congratulations on recently getting married. We don't really, just like this project or anything in life, we don't really have a perspective until we're kind of further away from it. I want to ask you, what is it like now to now be married and to work on this project and see the love of Andrea and Meg? Is it a different perspective for you? I mean, now that you are married?
I mean, I think, the fact that I get to be 45, almost 46, and have gotten married, and married a person, for someone who is riddled with anxiety and has always been riddled with anxiety, to stand across from this person that I love so much and trust so much, that I wasn't negotiating some low hum of anxiety on my wedding day, is batshit crazy to me. If you had said I would get married and be I'm all good, I would have been absolutely not. So I love when life surprises you like that. So it's a beautiful sort of chapter to be in. So far, I'm not that far in, but I like being married. Pretty cool, pretty fun. And I also think, it's what I love about it is that we did it on our terms, and it just, love looks the way it looks for everybody individually. And so that we got to throw this big party and invite our friends. We did it upstate New York, which is one of our favorite places to be. So we got to introduce this community to a lot of people we love. And it was just a really joyful, beautiful weekend.
I'm so grateful for your time today. At the end of a film, you're just feeling like you want to feel okay. You want to feel like you're being received. And I think that's what this song does. And thank you, Sara, so much for this beautiful song and for supporting this film. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Such a joy. Thanks.
Many thanks to our guests today, and if you'd like to listen to more conversations from the SoundWorks collection, please subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on all major podcasting platforms, including the video version on YouTube. You can also find exclusive daily video clips on our Instagram and TikTok pages, and connect with other creatives around the world through our email industry mailing list at soundworkscollection.com. If you have a story or project that you want to propose for the show, please send us an email at info@soundworkscollection.com. And thanks again for listening.
Something sour than sweet. Wanna kiss you and write love's name on my crumbling wall.